Greetings, everyone. Pete Pardo here from City Tranquility. Welcome to another episode of Monday Night Must See TV with the Hudson Valley Squares. It's our first episode on StreamYard here on the Squares. Hopefully everything goes okay. So far, so good. Before we talk about the topic at hand, which was introduced to me from Mr. Chris Allo tonight, our center square, let me introduce everybody. We got Count Ralphus is in the house. The Rock is here. Ryan Scow. He's back again. Tony Dio Leonard's in the house.
Yeah.
Woo. Karen LaPreziosa's here. The Precious.
That's it, babe.
Chris Allo's our center square, like I said. We got Nick Franco in the house. Craig Kaminsky's here. Robert Lasante's here. And me, the host of the show. So greetings, everybody. How you all doing?
Good.
Good.
Happy to be on.
Cool. Yeah, yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. So this topic today, in fact, I'm going to share my screen here so we can kind of show everybody what we're doing. So this is a little thing that was going out on social media recently, talking about 80s bands, and there's a whole bunch of them. And here's 80s hard rock and metal bands. How many have you seen? What's your number? So kind of how we're going to play this tonight. So everybody who's watching, take a good long look at this list here. If you want to do it, take a picture with your camera or something like that so you have the list. These are all the bands, a lot of very popular bands, some maybe not so popular. What we're doing is if you've seen any of these bands, you get a point for each band. If you've seen any of these bands more than 5 times, you get 2 points. So I've asked everybody to look at this list hard, very long, go through your old ticket stubs, go through your memory banks, whatever you got to do, and figure out how many points you've got based on how many times you've seen these bands. And so what we're going to do is we're going to go around the around the StreamYard. We're going to go around the yard tonight, and I'm going to ask everybody what bands maybe hadn't they caught on this list, which bands maybe they did catch more than 5 times to get the 2 points, and then what is the total number of points that they have. So let me take that off the screen. Everybody got it? Everybody got all the bands? Yes, indeed. All right, cool. All right, so we're going to start with Ralph tonight. Ralph, you're up.
All right, so 14 of these bands I've never even seen, and a lot of them I'm proud that I haven't seen them. But there's a few of the 14 that I wouldn't have minded seeing, like Sabotage, Armored Saint, Lizzie Borden, and Halloween. I wouldn't have minded seeing them, but Def Leppard, Keel, Quiet Riot, Great White, Skid Row, Rat, Dokken, Bon Jovi, Motley Crue. I could care less to see them. If I was at a show and they were playing, I probably wouldn't be paying attention to them. Out of this list, 18 of the bands I've seen 5 or more times. I've seen Maiden, Priest, Sabbath, Metallica, Dio, Kiss, Motorhead, Ozzy, Megadeth, Slayer, King Diamond, Alice Cooper, Overkill, Anthrax, Testament, Merciful Fate, Exodus, Creator. That was my 18 bands that I've seen 5 or more times. And my score is 52. I should have had AC/DC as a but one show when I was going to, I could see them on the Fly on the Wall tour, and my friend's sister was driving us. And when we got like a half an hour to the Meadowlands, the fan belt broke, and we pulled over to a place to get it fixed. And she wouldn't let us take our shirt money and get a cab and just go to the show because she felt responsible for us. So we just sat there until it got fixed, and then we went home. But the Ingve Malmsteen was opening up on the Marching Out tour, and that would have been a great time in seeing AC/DC for the first time. And then I had tickets another time for AC/DC, and it's when Brian Johnson had the hearing problem. We had tickets to Madison Square Garden, and I thought it was going to be the last time I was ever going to see AC/DC. So we bought for me and my wife, it was like $350 tickets. And when they announced Axl Rose was singing, I had to get my money back because I wouldn't have seen it, but not for $350. So that would have been 2 more times, and that would have made 5 times for AC/DC. But yeah, that's pretty much it.
All right. So Ralph, what was your total? What was your tally again?
52.
52. Okay. All right. Very cool. All right. You know, when Ralph wasn't going to see all those bands, he was out checking out some yacht rock bands. Is the reason why.
Candy, you're a fine girl.
Brandy.
Brandy.
Well, no, Ralph's wife is Candy.
Oh, yeah. See, actually, you were right. Yeah.
That's right.
Good song. That's a good song.
All right, Ryan, you're up.
All right. So this is an interesting list. There's a lot of bands on this list I haven't seen. A few that I would have liked to have seen, but just didn't happen. And as many concerts as like me and like Nick have gone to, it's usually like not this type of metal for the most part. So we'll start from the top. So the bands I've seen 5 or more times. The number one easily was Iron Maiden. I've seen, I think, 20 times. I unfortunately am not blessed with the immaculate and precise Chris Allo memory. So some of these I was digging through concert stubs, but I'm like, did I see him 9 or 1 or a couple? I rounded up 1, some I rounded down 1. So I think it all comes out in the wash. Judas Priest I've seen 10 times. Let's see what else we got. Megadeth I've seen 5 times. Slayer I've seen 12 times. Overkill 6. Exodus 9 and Creator 10.
Wow.
So I mean, like I never saw Van Halen. I mean, I'm younger, so I only would have had the one chance when they came back around, I think, like 2011, 2012. I was never the biggest Van Halen fan. I know they played Bethel Woods. I just didn't go. I would, if I've seen Bon Jovi, it just would have been a Under Duress situation or Guns or some Pod People Invasion of the Body Snatchers. That never happened. I would have liked to see who else we got. I would like to see Rush. Honestly, I never saw Rush. I had many opportunities. I just fucking flipped on it every single time. I would have loved to see him. Never happened. AC/DC, I really like. I love the Bon Scott stuff. That's some of my favorite rock and roll of all time. The Brian Johnson years, it's okay. Back in Black's a masterpiece. For those About to Rock is a good album, but I don't know. Like AC/DC is an example of a band where every time they came around, I would like to see them. I'm not paying what they're fucking charging for those tickets and sitting in like the fucking cosmic nosebleeds watching a band on a jumbotron. And the good seats were like insanely expensive. So I'm like, fuck it, It would have been like at MetLife Stadium or something. Just to me, it was never worth the money. I got to see Merciful Fate was actually high on my list for many years. I was a little too young to have seen them back when. I just didn't have the money when I was a teenager. And now I had the money. They didn't play until about 2 years ago. So I got to see them 3 times. And what else we got here? I saw Motorhead 4 times. I wish it was 40. I do wish I got to see them a lot more than I did. I had a couple chances to see them throughout the years, and I missed a couple tours, saw some shows, but I ultimately only saw them 4 times. So that one's a little sour for me. And even though I don't like them, I did see Dokken once at the chance. And I don't really remember why I was there, but I ended up at a Dokken show. Yeah,
condolences.
I don't know. Thank you. It just fucking happened. Funny stories. Yeah, we got myself, Pete, and Nick. We saw Def Leppard and Kiss together, and yeah, I think that story's been mentioned on the show before. But I don't remember much of the show, but I remember activities within our own group. Certain individuals getting a little silly behavior happening. The powers of vodka compel you, that kind of thing. Booze is a mighty,
all the black metal, death metal, grindcore, all the crazy shit I have seen in my life. Who would have thought that that's the wildest I ever acted at a show? Yeah,
you're actually right. That was the
Kiss.
And we've been pretty fucking crazy at some shows over the years. And yeah, that was the I don't know, something about what has 9 arms and sucks just got inside your head that day, and you're like, this is it. I'm drinking all the vodka on the premises.
I like a little Def Leppard.
I seem to recall a young lady's blanket was used as a cape.
Cape, yeah.
Yes.
Without her consent.
Without her consent. Yeah. And then the one that actually sucks the most is I only saw Dio 1 time my whole life. I only saw Dio once.
Wow.
I wish it was more, but it was with Motorhead and Iron Maiden, I think in 2003, 3 or 4. And so my number is 34, not that high, because there are definitely a lot of bands. Like I never saw Lizzie Borden, never saw King's X, Quiet Riot, Fates Warning, Loudness. I actually never saw Halloween. That's a band that I had a couple opportunities to, just never saw them. Never saw Great White, don't give a fuck. Never saw Rat, don't give a fuck. Never saw GNR, definitely don't give a fuck about them. And even though it's not on the list, when I was thinking of this list, I'm like, man, whoever put this list together, they got Bon Jovi on here. Fuck Bon Jovi. But there are a couple 80s bands. So I'm not going to include them on my number, but there's a couple 80s bands I've seen a lot of times, and I'll mention them real quick. I've seen Manila Road 10 times, Sirith Ungol 8 times. They should have been included. Fucking Voivod. I've seen Voivod 10 times, Satan 10 times, Exciter. Come on, Exciter rules. I've seen Exciter 10 times, and I've seen Pagan Altar 5 times and Sodom 4 times. But I didn't put them in my number. The list would have been too cool if you got included those guys. But yeah, my number is 34. That's what I got.
Wow.
All right. Tony.
So this is I pretty much I'm a big concert fan anyway, and I've been going to concerts since I was like 13 years old. So I've seen everyone on this list at least one time, except for Triumph. But I did see Rick Emmett do a night of Triumph. He and another guitar player did an acoustic set. Some of you guys might have saw it a couple years ago. And he just does a night of Triumph. So I don't know if we can count that or not. But otherwise, I've seen everybody on this list at least once over the years. The ones that I have seen the least, Scorpions, I only saw them 3 or 4 times. First time I saw them was 1984. And so, except I saw them 4 times. I saw them once in 84, opened for Ozzy on Bark at the Moon tour when they were out with for Balls to the Walls. I saw Rush twice. Now, so I've worked in the concert industry and stuff for years, and for record labels, I've written for zines and stuff. So it's kind of like Aloe, you know, you get a lot of freebies to shows and stuff too. So that kind of comes into play a lot of times when you go to concerts and you're like, oh, it's free, sure, I'll go. But Rush was actually the 2 shows that I saw. I actually worked at. I was a runner for those shows, but I did get to see most of the shows. That was the Snakes and Arrows tour and Vapor Trails tour. And let's see who else. Merciful Fate, I saw them 3 times. The Cult, I saw 3 times. Lizzie Borden, I saw 4. Fate's Warning, I saw them twice, one of which was the Prague Power in 2016, where they did the whole Awaken the Guardian album, which is one of the best shows I've ever seen in my life. I saw Loudness only 3 times, but they can't get a visa to get in the country half the time. They cancel every time you buy tickets to go see them. Halloween, finally marked that off last year. That was on my bucket list. Finally got to see them, saw them once. And Keel, I saw Keel at an M3 festival, which is like a 80s glam rock hair band festival. Also Guns N' Roses, I saw them once, and they were incredible. They were opening.
Holy shit! What was that? Did somebody just get stabbed?
Sounds like it.
That was me.
Sound like a dog, but like when the batteries are dying on a Walkman, you know.
Sounds like Cerberus.
But I saw Guns N' Roses open for Motley Crue on the I think it was the Girls tour, and they were a new band. They were young, pissed off, hungry rock band. One of the best rock shows I've ever seen in my life. It just blew Motley Crue off the stage, which didn't take much anyway. No. But they were amazing. I never need to see them again because they're never going to top that. It just became a bloated rock band after that. But some of the ones I've seen the most, Kiss 24 times.
What?
I've seen Iron Maiden 12, Judas Priest 12, Black Sabbath, including Heaven and Hell, I counted 9 times. That's probably not even a blimp on Aloe's radar there. Saw Van Halen 9 times, Metallica 10, Motley Crue, I've seen them 12 times, believe it or not, but a couple of those were shows that I worked as well. Dio, I saw Dio 9 times as a solo artist, 3 times with Heaven and Hell. Motorhead, I got to see him 8 times, Ozzy 10. Seen Bon Jovi 5 times, believe it or not. Now 3, they opened up. First time was in '84, they opened for Scorpions. Second time they opened up for Rat. Third time they opened for 38 Special. And the other 2 shows that I saw were shows that I worked in the 2000s. And but I admit, I'm not ashamed. I like old Bon Jovi, the early stuff before he tried to start being Bruce Springsteen. And seen AC/DC 5 times. Megadeth, probably 10 or more. Slayer, I've lost count, at least a dozen. Dokken, seen them about 6 times. King Diamond, actually, King Diamond was another one I'd only saw 4 times as a solo artist. Rat, I've seen Rat, different versions of Rat through the years in the clubs and stuff, and as well, and different festivals and stuff. So I've probably seen them a dozen times. Skid Row 6 times. Queensryche, and if you count Queensryche and Jeff Tate's solo version of Queensryche, I've probably seen them 10 or 12 times. Wasp, I've seen 5. Alice Cooper's way over a dozen. Def Leppard's at least 10 times, and I worked a lot of Def Leppard shows. Whitesnake, I saw them 8 times. Saxon 7. Overkill, another band I've lost count, 15 or more probably. A lot of club shows with Overkill, especially during the 90s. Let's see, Anthrax, I've seen them like 9 or 10 times. Like Armored Saint was only one time I saw them. They actually opened for Wasp last year or year before last. It was the first time I'd ever seen Armored Saint. Testament, I've seen like 6. Great White, I mean, God, there's like 2 versions of them too. I've seen them at different festivals and stuff. So I've seen them when they were good. I've seen them when they were not good at all. Probably at least 8 times. Y&T I've seen 7 times. Sabotage was 4 times. Exodus I've seen 5 times. Lizzie Borden was 4. King's X 8 times. Quiet Riot 8 times. They used to play the club circuit a lot too, and I got to see them quite a few times. Metal Church I've seen 5 times. Creator I've seen 5 times.
Tony,
So,
where did you mostly see these shows growing up? Like
growing up, I would go to Coliseums, but a lot of the shows I saw were during the late 90s, early 2000s.
Yeah.
A lot of bands would just come through clubs. I mean, they would play in North Carolina at various clubs, but I used to go to this club called Jack's in Northern Virginia.
Oh,
and that was like a second home to me. And it was only a 3.5 hour drive, and everybody played Jack's. I mean, you see glam bands one night. I mean, I've gone and stayed 3 or 4 days in a row, and you see like, I remember going one night seeing like Sabotage one night, Lynch Mob the next night, and Overkill the third night.
Yeah, Tony, all the obscure 90s like Euro dark metal bands that I would always on the back of the shirts after they left our area up here, they would go to Jack's.
Play Jack's, yeah.
Play Jack's, yeah.
That was like you're right. For years, you'd see that at every
King
single.
Fowley loves that place, right?
And it wasn't King's favorite place at all for sure. But yeah, I've been with him there a few times. Could tell some stories. But yeah, and like you get all the European metal bands that were popular in the 90s and in the early 2000s were all playing there as well.
Cool.
So I'm like, I was lucky that I lived close to somewhere that I could drive and see stuff. And then a lot of the bands too play like this 80s fest. I mentioned M3. They always have. There's been 15 of them, and I've been to 13 of them over the years. So all these bands.
What just happened like a week or 2 ago?
Yeah, I saw them early first weekend in May.
That's right.
It's just as most of these bands come through each year, it's less and less original members each time they come through. Usually,
yeah.
So, but yeah. So if my math is right, with 1 point for each band you've seen and 2 for everybody that you've seen over 5, I've got 81.
All righty.
I might as well go home.
Don't worry, Rob. Right there.
All right, Karen.
A lot of these are I just happen to be there, and these bands were there, like at arena shows. Like I never wanted to see Motley Crue, and I saw them. I never really cared to see Dokken. They're just like collateral damage or so, you know what I mean? So I get a lot of points for that. I've seen Motorhead, I don't know, 8 times, 9 times. Megadeth around 5, Slayer minimum 10. I lost count with that. Creator, same thing. Overkill, forget about it. Exodus, these bands were always at like L'Amour's, and so was I. So as a result, I saw them a lot. I saw Sabbath 3 times. But, if they're at L'Amour's, they could be on stage, you know what I mean? And you're just floating around and socializing and seeing everybody if you're not really that into it. I mean, you're technically there, But
It counts. It counts.
yeah, like Testament. Like I've seen Testament so many times. I'm doing a curve here because I'm not quite sure. Like I don't know how many times I've seen Testament. Was it 5? Was it 4? I don't know. Same thing with Armored Saint. So I'm going to give myself a conservative number at like 42. All right.
42?
Yeah. I saw Megadeth a million times just from being at Lemoore. And as Ryan said, there's a lot of 80s bands that should be here. Like, I don't like Anthrax, but I think they should be on this list.
They are.
They are.
I don't like. They are on the list.
They're on
They
the
are.
list.
They are on the list.
I don't
All
like them
right.
much too, but I saw Anthrax.
All right. I only put down 2 times because that was like collateral damage for that.
But you're right. There are other 80s bands that should be. And quite frankly, I love them, but Whitesnake started in the 70s. They shouldn't be on this list. I mean, I know they broke big here in the States in the 80s, but Whitesnake really shouldn't be on this list.
I think Cro-Mag should be on the list. I think Nuclear Assault should be on this list.
More thrash, yeah. Love thrash.
I mean, Destruction. I don't know. That's what Voivod, Celtic Frost. This is all, bands like Quiet Riot and Rat. I just happened to see at like some arena show, and and they were there. I only saw Metallica 2 times, but they were both very small shows, so I think that counts for a lot. And what else? Never saw Sabotage. Never saw Great White. Never saw The Cult. Never saw Alice Cooper, which is my biggest regret.
Wow.
Still got time.
Yeah, he's actually touring this July. There's a good opportunity. It's like up in Albany, I think. I'm probably going to go.
He's better than ever. You should go. You should.
He does sound really good these days.
Yeah, that's what Pogo and everybody says, so I really have to do it. Only saw Priest twice. Only saw Maiden twice. Never saw Van Halen. I saw Scorpions. I don't know, maybe 5 just from being around. I only saw Dio once. I saw Kiss once. Ozzy once, which was my first concert. AC/DC once. I was mostly at like the Ritz and in the 80s and CBGBs and Lemoore. So a lot of these big bands don't really apply. But yeah, I saw Fate twice. And I don't know. I'm sure I saw King's X because they were at Lemoore's. That's a Megaforce band, but I don't know for sure. I couldn't tell you.
None of them are on this list, but there's bands I've seen at least 20 times just because they were just there.
Yeah,
not like local bands,
right?
like bands on labels, like professional bands that I saw at festivals like 20-something times.
Candiria, go to
I've seen Candiria like fucking 70 times.
Yeah,
I didn't mention like when I saw most of the times that I saw Black Sabbath or Ozzy was at an Ozfest.
Oh, okay.
Because they were like either Ozzy or Sabbath. I mean, Sabbath was one of those bands growing up I thought I'd never get a chance to see, and then I saw them, that many times. I just couldn't believe it, because they came every year on Ozfest. It seems like.
I want to say though, I did get to see Lizzie Borden a couple times, and that hair is fabulous. That's it.
All right, Chris, over to you.
All right. This was interesting. This was definitely the old be careful what you wish for. When I sent this to Papa Pete, I go, oh, this will be an easy topic. Because I know every band I've seen on this list. I could figure this out no problem. And then Pete's like, oh, but if you've seen them more than 5 times, it's 2 points. And I'm like, oh man, like there's a lot of these that I wasn't sure on.
Yeah.
So then I just started going through the list, and I'm like, once I was knee deep into it, I'm like, well, fuck it. I'm just gonna figure out every band on this list, how many times I've seen them. And it was a lot of them were a lot more than I thought. Some of them were less than I thought. But yeah, it proves that I have something seriously wrong with me because I've gone to far too many of these concerts, and just going through everything, I'm like, Jesus, that's a lot of tours. But yeah, some of the standout numbers for me, Iron Maiden 32 times with 2 more to go in the fall. Judas Priest 30 times, Black Sabbath 41 times, Dio 16 times, Motorhead 28 times, Megadeth 28 times, Slayer is my all-time number one. 58 Slayer concerts.
Yes.
so-
Yes.
That's
Cheers, brother.
I've seen more Slayer shows than Kerry King.
I was actually
I gotta go after this
surprised,
guy.
I was surprised Rush was so low on my list. I saw Rush 18 times, but I thought for sure it would be like 25 or 30.
18. What a loser.
Oh,
Jesus,
Rookie
only
numbers.
18. God.
Rookie numbers.
Saxon was 20 times, Overkill 24 times, Testament 30 times, Creator 17 times. So those were like the top,
wow.
like the bigger numbers. Yeah, there are 3 bands on this list I never saw. I never saw Bon Jovi.
Good.
Never really cared to. I never saw Keel.
I knew you were going to say that one.
Interesting. I was more interested in seeing Keel than Bon Jovi. A friend asked me to go see Bon Jovi and Keel together at Madison Square Garden, and I was semi-interested because Ron Keel had a cup of coffee with Black Sabbath in the 80s. But I remember it was right around the time I was going to see Slayer and Danzig on South of Heaven, and I was like, well, if I skip that Bon Jovi show, which I'm not that hot for, I could buy another shirt at the Slayer show. So that was probably the wise move.
It was.
The wise move.
It was.
Yeah, for sure.
100%.
The other band that I missed that kind of bothers me is Triumph. To me, they were always like Rush, just not as good. I never saw them. I did do a sit-down interview with Gilmore and Mike Levine, and I was like, hey, you did those 2 reunion shows. How about some more? And they were like, oh, well, the economy's not good. And I wanted to be like, are you fucking kidding me? You know how many concerts I've been to last year? Economy's fine. Assholes like me are buying concert tickets all the time. But that interview was probably 10 years ago. They only did those 2 reunion shows. So I'm never fucking getting to see Triumph. But yeah, I've seen a lot of shows, probably more than I should have. My total number of points was 77. Because there is a bunch that were almost 5. Like I saw AC/DC 4 times, Guns N' Roses 4 times, a couple others. But yeah, that's my. But if I did my total number, yeah, holy shit, that'd be pretty high.
Wow.
All righty then. Nick.
All right. I feel like a piece of shit going after. So I guess for me, let's keep in mind that I didn't even start going to concerts till 1994. Wow. So, this 80s decade, I didn't even start going there till after. So I guess what's worthy to note is what I didn't see. There were 21 bands on this list that I have never seen. I'll name them, fast. Van Halen, Bon Jovi, AC/DC, Guns N' Roses, Dokken, King Diamond, Triumph, Rat, Skid Row, Wasp, Whitesnake, Armored Saint, The Cult, Great White, Sabotage, King's X, Quiet Riot, Fate's Warning, Loudness, Metal Church, and whatever the Keel. I thought it meant Keeler. I'm like, I've seen Keeler like 37 times.
I've seen Keeler a lot.
Yeah, I don't even know what Keel is. Never saw him.
He puts on a good show.
Out of those 21, I wish I had seen Triumph, Skid Row, and Wasp.
You never saw King Diamond with us?
No.
I could have sworn you were at the show.
And you never saw Armored Saint?
No. Never seen
I just saw them with Chris. That was
I know. I wanted to go to that.
Yeah, they were great.
Yeah.
I saw them with
great.
Wasp
They really
like a year
are.
ago.
my
I
first.
saw that Wasp tour.
Yep,
But like
saw that
knowing
one.
my tastes and what I was really into, it's unbelievable that I've only seen Metallica once. I've only seen Judas Priest once. I've only seen Megadeth twice, and I've only seen Slayer twice.
But how many times did you see me?
A lot. Well, yeah, we'll get to Maiden. It's really because of my mom, rest her beautiful soul, that I did not get to see Metallica, Megadeth, and Slayer more because she just I wasn't allowed,
Oh, I
So
She saw
and by the
Barbara
time,
Walters. That's it. You're banned.
and by the time I was allowed to, when the reins came off in 1994 at 18, by the time I was allowed to go to shows, my interest in Metallica, Megadeth, and Slayer went way down. And particularly Slayer started touring with bands I just absolutely despised.
Yeah.
So I just, and then by the time I got back, I was like, you better fucking see them. Like, it was almost too late. Yeah, Megadeth. I can't believe I've only seen Megadeth twice. Once was in Poughkeepsie and one was in Sweden. And Priest was in Sweden, and it was a long time ago. And I had met a lovely young lady there during the show, and we were not like intimate, but we were like, making out while Judas Priest was playing. It was night and day at the same time because it was Sweden. It was one of the best, most frozen in my head moments of my fucking life. And Rob came out on the Harley and the whole thing, and it was great.
Were they doing Turbo Lover during that part?
No, they weren't. I actually looked up the set list recently. It was all good stuff, but I forget. So that was that little story. Yeah, so that is ridiculous because Metallica, Priest, Megadeth, and Slayer are so huge in my life. And yet just the timing, the one I've seen the most on this list, and nobody's surprised, is Iron Maiden 20 times, just like Rye. And Ryan, you can delete from me, the Queensryche Halford tour. I missed that. And I saw them once in Germany at Rock, and you missed that. So that's where and then, yeah,
Comes out in the wash.
Yep. And then 2 more times this November. They're my favorite band in my life. So makes sense, right? After that comes Overkill 7 times. And then what's funny is Testament, Exodus, and Creator. I've seen 6 times. So 666. Testament, Exodus, and Creator. And I've seen Sabbath 5 times, including the Heaven and Hell tour. I include in that. I've seen Queensryche, I think 4 times. It might be more. I can't swear to it because of all the Jeff Tate shit that he's done. I've seen Accept 4 times. Motorhead only 3 times.
Wow.
Makes no
I
sense.
wish I had seen them more too.
I saw them at Jones Beach, his very last show here. I saw Sweden Rock Festival. They had the Bomber stage lights. And I saw
At the Chance with Morbid Angel.
At the Chance with Morbid Angel. Thank you, Ryan. Yeah, so those, and then there's a bunch that are only like I've seen Dio twice. Hold on, my phone prop just went away. Bear with me here, folks. I've seen Saxon twice, Def Leppard once, Alice Cooper twice, Rush once. That was my very first concert. I mentioned those other foundational bands. Ozzy as Ozzy only once, Kiss only once, Dio twice, Motley Crue twice. I would love to exchange those for anything else. Scorpions once. And then where are we? I said that. Anthrax 3 times. And I loved Anthrax a lot as a kid. Only saw them 3 times. Merciful Fate only that once, but it was in Norway. Y&T once in Sweden. Lizzie Borden once because they were opening for somebody. Halloween is I mentioned last because I've seen Halloween only 3 times, and I can't believe it. I love that band so much, and I've only seen them 3 times. Long Island, Sweden, and the New York City show that I think we were all at, right, Pete?
Yep.
The unbelievable when they had Kai Hansen, and oh my god, that was
it was the Pumpkins United. Yeah, that was great.
Yeah,
I saw them, man. Amazing.
Yep. So it's basically it. I only got a 34.
Same as me.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah.
There you go.
Hey, it's never too late. Like I only saw, they're not on the list, but after 20 something years of trying, I only saw Blind Guardian like 3 weeks ago.
Yeah.
You know,
There's a whole bunch of other bands that I've seen probably 15, 20 times, like Amorphous and Moonspell and shit like that. I was, by the time the 90s were ripening, I was taking myself down to New York City. I've seen Iced Earth a million times. Immolation, like those were the bands I was trying to go see, like all the underground shit, Sam Ale.
Yeah, like Immolation, all those Incantation. I've seen them like a million times each.
Yeah, Enslaved, I've probably seen Enslaved something like 20 times, 25 times maybe. No, maybe that's good. I don't know. I can't remember, but probably like 18 to 20 times. So.
All right. So Nick and Ryan are bringing up the rear here tonight so far.
Yeah.
All right, Craig, over to you.
All right. Well, some of these I've seen, quite a few of these bands I've seen between like 1 and 3 times. Out of what's listed here, I believe I've seen Judas Priest the most. I've seen them 10 or 11 times between 1990 and the Firepower tour. That was the last time I saw them. I didn't see them on this current go around. but yeah, like I never got to see Van Halen, but I saw Sammy Hagar by himself, and I saw Dave Lee Roth by himself. I never saw Accept, but I saw the Dirk Schneider tour from 6 or 7 years ago. So there was, I never saw King Diamond, but I saw Merciful Fate the one time a few years ago, which was great. So there's a lot of these that were kind of like that. Some interesting, at least, or stories at least. In '96, I finally got to see Kiss, and I went to see them for this. This was the second time I saw them. And it was the big reunion tour. And as a kid, I was like, I'll never get to see Kiss in their makeup or anything. So this was, so cool. At the time in '96, this was in like June of '96. I was going to college, and it was done between semesters. I was at the gym, and the radio was on, and the local radio station in Reading, Pennsylvania, said that they were having a bus trip up to Madison Square Garden to see Kiss. And I didn't have school or work that day. A buddy of mine was at the gym, and it's like, well, let's go. And it was like 9 a.m, and the tickets weren't going to go on sale until like 6 p.m. or something like that. Well, let's go to the radio station. And so we drove over there, and I remember it was hot as balls that day, and we were completely unprepared. And yeah, in 1996, I looked like this. I'm one of the pioneers of this fucking look. So I mean, in 1996, standing outside in the blistering heat, I got wicked sunburn like all over my head, and it peeled and. But I got to see Kiss. I got to go to take a bus trip up to first time up into New York to see Kiss at Madison Square Garden. I believe it was the third night of the 4-night stand that they did there. But I always remember burning the living shit out of my skull to go see Kiss.
So Craig, that was your first MSG show. Did you ever go again?
No, I've never been there again. And like I said, as back then, I mean, this was like an adventure, getting dropped off in the streets of New York. I'd never been to New York City either. So it's being dropped off in the streets of New York, and it was, it's kind of scary, I'll admit it, but it was definitely one of the best shows that I'd ever seen, and I still remember it fondly, and finally getting to see them. Motorhead I've seen at least more than 5 times. One of the times actually, Todd Youth was the guitar player for the night because Phil Campbell's mom had died or something, and he had flown back home to England. This was at the Stone Pony in Asbury Park, New Jersey. Yep. So it was to see a slightly different lineup of the band for one night. So that was an interesting thing. Megadeth, I believe I've seen 4 times, but never as a headliner. Every time was as an opening for Judas Priest, the Scorpions, Motley Crue. What was the other one? Heaven and Hell. So never as a headliner. Dokken I got to see once on their Dysfunctional tour when they reunited in the mid '90s. Rat I got to see a couple times. One of them they played as a 4-piece in the late '90s, and I always considered that like the worst concert I've ever gone to. And it was only because there was so many people in a club that was like the size of my bathroom, and it was just everyone was so squished together. That type of music was a weird place at that time because some of these bands could pack people into a club, but not too big of a club. So where I remember seeing this, I believe it was in Allentown, Pennsylvania, and it was just so full and it was just so miserable where like someone's armpit is like in your face like for 2 hours. I mean, it was just a bad experience. Skid Row.
Did that have been the Crocodile Rock?
Yes, I have. Yeah, I've been there several times.
Yeah, that place is
Yeah, but it wasn't there. But I don't remember where the heck it was without having my book in front of me. Skid Row I never got to see, and interestingly enough, I was supposed to have seen them opened for Kiss on the farewell tour back in 2000 at Hershey Park Stadium. We showed up that night, and then all of a sudden in big on like the Jumbotron, it said Skid Row is not playing tonight, or something like that. So Ted Nugent was the only opener for Kiss that night. So I would have gotten a chance to see Skid Row. This was the Johnny Solinger lineup of them at the time. Alice Cooper, I've seen it more than 5 times. Overkill, I've only gotten to see a couple. The second time was at the world's hottest concert that Chris Allo and I went to at the Chance, where we thought we would have died.
That's infamous.
But, that was. But it made for a memorable show, that's for sure. Anthrax I've seen a few times, but only with John Bush. I never saw them with Joey singing. Testament I've seen a handful of times, but the first time that I was supposed to see them, I didn't, because they were opening for Judas Priest in 1990 on the Painkiller tour. It was Judas Priest, Megadeth, and Testament. The show was in Philadelphia on a Sunday during football season, and it was of course kind of stupid on our part. The Philadelphia Eagles always played at 1:00. For whatever reason that day, they played the Packers at 4. And so everybody was trying to get out of that stadium at 6:30, 7 o'clock or whatever. And then everyone was trying to get into the Spectrum to see Judas Priest. So it was a total clusterfuck with traffic. And so we didn't get to see Testament. I remember leaning my head out the window and saying to my brother, like, they're playing Practice What You Preach. And, and it's like, but we never got to see them. I didn't get to see them actually until quite a few years later. But glad I did. Great White I got to see with Tesla and Badlands. It's more memorable for me to have seen Badlands back in 1989. But Great White was pretty entertaining on the Twice Shy tour, if I recall. And then quite a few from the last column are ones I've not seen. But I'm glad I got to see Exodus once with Rob Dukes, once with Steve Souza, and Metal Church just a year or so ago at Creator opening up for Merciful Fate. So my number was 37. I'm not at the bottom like those other 2 losers, but I'm 30.
Beat us out.
I'm at 37. So
Craig, how many times have you seen Goat Whore?
You know what? I haven't seen it.
There you go.
All right. Over to Rob.
Well, I am the loser of the night for damn sure. I could tell you that.
Come on.
Rob, you want me to share your thing, Rob?
Come on, Rob. You're more than just a loser.
Yeah, you could just do that real quick. I'll just show you some of the pictures that I came up with.
Wow.
Iron Maiden. That's Judas Priest, front row, 1982.
Wow.
That's 2009 with KK. It was in the band still, British Steel Tour. Van Halen was at 82. Priest recent. Motorhead, that's the Metal Masters Tour. This is a recent Queensryche picture. Saxon, of course.
Yeah.
White Snake, speaking of White Snake, 2009 with Priest. Fate's Warning, that was with Queensryche. This was Exodus at the Paramount. Armored Saint, Metal Church with Pete and those guys up at the Chance. That was my first time seeing them. Overkill. Rush.
Mm-hmm.
The 80s.
Cool, dude.
I know. I was just saying the same thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then Testament.
Was that Grace Under Pressure tour or for the shot of Alex Lifeson?
This tour was
Almost looked like
Signals.
Signals. Yeah, that was Signals.
Signals. Cool.
Wow.
Yeah. He's very new wave looking there. That's why.
Yes, bow tie and all.
You can close it, Pete.
Okay.
Because I can't close it over here.
Yeah, I got it.
So I'm going to tell you right off the bat who I haven't seen, okay? I haven't seen Bon Jovi, all right? I don't remember if I saw Motley Crue. The 80s are kind of hazy for some shows because some of these bands open for other bands. For example, Great White. I saw Great White, and they opened for
Priest.
Van Halen.
Yeah, Priest.
They opened for Judas Priest on the Defenders of the Faith tour.
Yeah, so I definitely saw them. I never saw Ozzy by himself. Never saw Ozzy by myself. Yeah, Guns N' Roses had no desire. I've never seen Slayer live. I've never
Wow.
seen Accept, Dokken, King Diamond, Triumph, Rat, Skid Row. I don't think I did. Wasp, Alice Cooper, The Cult, Fate, Y&T. Sabotage I never saw, but I did see John Olivia with Chris Caffrey in Yonkers at the it was a Circle to Circle tour, and John Olivia it was just him and Chris and the band. Who else? King's X I've never seen. Loudness no, Halloween no, Creator no, and Keel. So all those bands I've never seen. But like Chris and a couple others, Iron Maiden 28 times, Judas Priest 29 times, Sabbath 3 times, Van Halen 3 times, Metallica twice, Scorpions once with Rainbow, Dio with Motorhead. So I saw Motorhead twice. Kiss I only saw once. For some reason, I can't remember why I only saw Kiss once. I only saw him once. AC/DC 3 times in the 80s, Megadeth once, and that on the tour that you guys were talking about, 1990. I was at the Brendan Byrne. I was in the second row for that show. That's how I really got into Testament, was that show. That's what made me a Testament fan from that day on. Boom. Rush 3 times. I saw Queensryche 13 times over the years between the 80s and now. Def Leppard I saw in 1980 when they weren't even known yet, and they just hit the States with the AC/DC on the Back in Black tour at the Palladium, and that I was 18. That was a great show. I remember Angus getting pulled off the stage, and Angus started beating the crap out of the kid in the front row. I'll never forget that. And Def Leppard were great. They were all, they were young. They were like teens.
Def Leppard.
And I saw them open up for, was it Blackfoot open up for them? I think a couple years later, I saw Blackfoot open up for them. So I saw Def Leppard twice. Whitesnake, like I said, once. Saxon, I've seen 5 times. Overkill twice. I think Overkill I saw, and Anthrax, I saw them both at L'Amour's. I used to go to L'Amour's a lot, but I didn't really go. I didn't go to too many metal shows, but I did go to a few. I went mostly to go see like guitarists like Robin Trower and Rick Derringer and Johnny Winters and guys like that, a lot of stuff that's not on this list, obviously. Armored Saint, I just saw them with Chris. Testament, I've seen 4 times. The one that I really missed that I should have went, it was the Merciful Fate. I couldn't make it that night. I just couldn't get there. Exodus, I've seen twice. Lizzie Borden. That was Nick. That was Demons and Wizards. Did you go to that show? That was the show they were there. And I remember the guy coming up to him, he wanted to put the blood on me. He said, "Get the fuck out of here."
Yeah, that's the one, Rob. Yep.
Yeah,
I would have
that was
seen
the one.
Taylor Swift open for Demons
With,
and Wizards.
with
I didn't care who it was.
How you say it? Tyr? The guys that kill the whales? Those
Tyr.
guys. Yeah. King's X I never saw. Quiet Riot I saw. And I can't remember. I know it was in the 80s. I know I saw them. I can't remember who I think they opened up for somebody.
They opened up for Black Sabbath on the Born Again tour.
That's it. Yeah, the Born Again tour. Because Ian Gillan, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So that was at that show. Fate's Warning and Metal Church was one that I saw last year with you guys. That's really my list. I mean, again, I've seen so many other shows over the years, and like what Nick was saying, the 90s for me, I didn't go to a lot of shows in the 90s. I was married to my first wife, and that's a whole nother story. But I have to say, I made up for a lot of it in the 2000s. Going to a lot of different shows and bands that I never thought I would see, like Evergrey and Iced Earth and, Insomnium and all these other bands that I got in Opeth, all these other bands that I got into later on in life, because considering that I'm 62 years old, I wasn't really into a lot of that stuff until I got older. So I'm one of those guys that went opposite. I got heavier as I got older for some reason. So
Me too.
Me too, but that's all the cheese takes.
I got 31 points. That's all I got. I'm sorry, guys.
31.
All right, we're not in the back anymore. We're not pulling up the back, Nick.
So
Nick and Ryan can breathe a little easier now, right?
Whew, sigh of relief.
one thing they can't say they saw Van Halen. So
That's true. I did not see them.
I didn't either.
All right.
Pete,
So,
I got Keeler's score.
oh, you do? Okay.
do you?
Yeah, his score was like 70 or 72. I forget. He only didn't see a couple bands, but like almost like most of them he's seen like 5 or more times. So he had 70 or 72. I forget the exact number, but I figured I'd mention it.
We'll give him 72. That sounds like a good number.
Wow.
Cool. All right. So the bands I've never seen, there were only 2 of them on this list. I never saw Lizzie Borden. I don't remember Lizzie Borden ever playing anywhere. So I never saw them. And King's X I never saw because, quite frankly, I didn't really get into King's X till like maybe 3 years ago. I never really liked it that much. So I just never bothered going. But everybody else I saw at least once. And, you know, I think Chris was telling the story about Bon Jovi and Keel. I would have never gone to see Bon Jovi or Keel, but they were both playing together in like, what was it, 86, 87?
I think it was 88.
It was 88, might have been that late. Yeah. So so my brother and I both took our then girlfriends to go see Bon Jovi and Keel. And I remember it was like one of the worst shows I ever saw because like there were just like probably 90% women at this show. And anytime John went to go sing something or Richie would go play a guitar solo, all the women started screaming. So you couldn't even really hear the thing. It was just completely ridiculous. But I saw both of them that one time.
I guess they were Taylor Swift at the time.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it was ridiculous. A lot of bands on this list that I only saw like very few times. I wish I would have seen more. Like, I mean, I love Sabotage. I only saw them once. Fate's Warning, I've only seen once. Loudness, I've only seen. I saw Loudness twice. But the bands I've seen the most are Queensryche, quite a few times. Megadeth, I've seen probably like a dozen times. I've seen Ozzy at least 10 or 11 times. Believe it or not, only saw Motorhead once. And that was,
but you saw the lineup.
But I saw him open up for Ozzy's Blizzard of Oz with Randy Rhoads at Dance.
Wow.
Yeah, you saw the lineup.
So that was pretty cool. I've seen Metallica a ton of times. I've seen Sabbath a lot. Probably out of all of these bands, the ones I've seen the most are Iron Maiden and Judas Priest. I've seen easily over a dozen for both of them. So my total points are 55. List. So our winner tonight
is Keeler.
Is Tony.
Tony.
Oh, yeah.
31 points.
Count Ralphus, when I was talking to Count Ralphus earlier today, he said, we need somebody to go up against Chris Allo. He said, you've been, he said, you've seen all these bands. I'm like, yeah.
I thought Chris had it in the bag.
I thought Chris had it in the bag too.
Well, there's a lot of bands I saw less than 5.
But saying that, Chris, you saw. I mean, just the fact that you saw Sabbath that many times is just. I know. You should get a trophy for that or something.
Get a Slayer award.
And the last show in Birmingham.
Oh, was it 18? What was the one that was 18? Slayer, right?
58. No, it's a Slayer 58.
58. Wow. Get an honorary Kerry King tribal tattoo for free.
Well, I was saying I lost count on Slayer. I don't know how many times I saw them, but I mean, I didn't go. The first time I saw Slayer was Clash of the Titans tour. That was 91. But I've seen them. I mean, like I was saying, between the going to shows at Jack's and like Ozfest and shows like M3 festivals and stuff, some of these bands I just kept seeing them over and over because they would come through every year. Yeah. But one 80s band that I figured out today that I had seen 25 times or more was the band Kicks, because they were like a regional act. Yeah. They would come down from Maryland. They played here a lot. Plus, they played out of the M3s that I went to. They played 12 of the M3s that I've been to. They were the headline in that. And when I first got this from Pete today, I looked it over. I was thinking, why isn't Pantera that? And I said, wait a minute, they're a 90s band. But I mean, they actually came out in the 80s, and I actually saw Pantera 12 times.
I have to say, I feel very privileged even though I didn't see a lot of these bands, but I did see like Creator and Slayer and Exodus. I think at their best when I'm old, and this is when it really is a good thing, because like I saw Slayer at Lemoore, you know what I mean, and it was great, and
you saw them in their heyday. You know, a lot of the bands that I saw of these 80s bands, I saw them in the 90s and 2000. I did see Megadeth on the Peace Sales tour. And that's the best Megadeth show I've ever seen. I've seen them a bunch of times since then, you know. But when you can see the bands, like I mentioned Guns N' Roses earlier, you see a band like in their infancy like that, and they're just young and hungry. You're never going to see them top that over the years.
And full of creativity and ideas and no fear. You know what I'm saying? No fear of a record label or anything. They were just, this is what I'm doing. And at the time, Slayer sounded so different, even though they were thrash. And I feel really privileged to say that. And I'm lucky then in that sense. Yeah. I just
as we get older, our memories of these shows, starts to fade a little bit, especially when you're of a certain age and you're talking about shows you saw 35, 40, 45 years ago. It's like, so
my memory sucks now.
Look, I know what I had for breakfast.
Yeah, I'm lucky if I knew what I fucking had for dinner last night.
My first Motorhead show, my first Motorhead show wasn't until 96, and I've been a fan since like 84, 85. And they were one of those bands I thought I was never going to get to see, because the first time I was supposed to get to see them, they were playing that Operation Rock and Roll tour. Remember that in 91 with Judas Priest and Alice Cooper? Yeah. For some reason, they came to Raleigh. They didn't play that show. And
fell and broke his ribs.
And well, actually, they played that night in Wilmington, North Carolina. They pulled off the tour and went and played a separate show for some reason. But my first time seeing them in 96, they walked out on stage, and some fool drunk guy threw a full beer can at hit Lemmy. He turned around and walked off. I'm like, man, I'm never going to see Motorhead. They're not going to play now. But he came back and played, but that dude got his ass kicked pretty bad.
He deserved that.
As is right and proper.
Yeah, if the band had not played, he should have been fucking stopped.
Well, see, I have the opposite experience because I was Mr. Straight Edge when I was young. And so I remember concerts at 18, 19 with vividly that 28, 30 years old, I was fucking hammered, and I don't remember. So I remember the old stuff. Like, I remember the first time I saw Motorhead, I was dead sober. And it was, who can beat that, right? I guess. Because like I had a neighbor that was at the 82 the Priest and Maiden, like in the US, like he was there, my neighbor from when I lived in another town, and I remember like in awe, like, oh my god, you were at that? He's like, yeah, but I was on crystal meth and like he doesn't remember. I wasn't
on crystal meth when I saw them, but
or some shit. I'm like, oh,
he was physically there, but mentally in like another astral plane. But you know what, Nick? We just saw Sodom. We were not really sober at all.
No, we weren't. But
I have a very fond recollection of that.
Oh no, me too. I've reached an agreement with myself and my alcohol intake that is much better. Yeah,
that's a good one. That's one I've never seen. I've only got a bucket list of the bands I've never seen. Most of them are European bands or Canadian bands that just never come here and tour.
Yeah,
it's a shorter list. But yeah, Sodom was the one for years I wanted to see again, and there's bands on this list. Like, I've had a million chances to see Metallica, but because I'm only 42, I just don't give a fuck. Like, I have no desire. Like, I love the first 4 albums, absolutely love them.
That's why I only saw them twice. Like
you saw them when they were worth seeing. Like, you couldn't pay me to see Metallica now. Like, you give me $100, I'll just go buy groceries.
I could have went to the show. Somebody had a ticket for me. I was like, nah.
Yeah, I'm like, I say I've had a lot of opportunities, and I'm like, 1986, 1984, that would have been awesome.
Yeah.
2012, I don't give a fuck. So I only saw them twice, and once was with a symphony, which sucked. And once it was literally like I wish if I stuffed that $100 up my ass, I would have gone to a better use. And I saw him at Tattoo the Earth, which is like a giant. Was it MetLife giant stadium? So I don't know. You see a band with like 95 billion people. There's no intimacy, So
no, not at all.
It ain't the same thing.
with a symphony. What kind of bullshit is that? I mean,
A bunch of people in high school wanted to go to it. It was literally one of the stupidest fucking things I ever saw in my life.
Yeah, that didn't work. That didn't work very well. Some of the things, like if you go see Pink Floyd with a symphony or
That would've
something,
been-
that kind
Yeah.
of works. But like, you know, the Metallica and the worst one was Kiss Symphony. God, and they had this people in the orchestra all wearing Kiss makeup. It's just horrible.
oh my
I
god.
remember that.
Cha-ching!
The Metallica one, the S&M album was recorded, I think, in San Francisco, and I saw it in Madison Square Garden. And like they're playing fast shit like Battery, and it's like a fucking Looney Tunes cartoon, like they're smashing the cymbals and like trying to keep up with the thrash. And it was like a fucking bullshit cacophony. It was terrible.
I mean, the ballads, Nothing Else Matters, something might work. But yeah, Battery
that
just
did
sounds
work
like
better.
it sounds like it's the clusterfuck. You know, it's just
Hate the black.
100% is the right word. It was a clusterfuck. Like the Unforgiven worked, Nothing Else Matters worked. For Whom the Bell Tolls, it kind of worked a little. But as soon as I went to like fast parts, like most of Master of Puppets or stuff, nah, it just fell apart.
You can
Did
find
they
it
play
on
Motor Breath with a symphony? How?
I don't think so. But I remember Battery, and I'm like, what is it? It's like a fucking. It was like a Looney Tunes cartoon with, you know, like the one person band with like the cymbals and the tube.
It was on YouTube, right?
Conductor, especially through the boundary. It's under his
I
boundary.
would like to hear them play Motor Breath with the symphony. That would be interesting.
Well, you might get your wish one day, but not.
How was it below?
Those folks who joined us late, I'm going to throw the list of bands back up on the screen real quick once more. So that's what we've been talking about all night. So down in the comments below, list how many times you've seen these bands. Give us your number. All right. Remember, if you've seen the band 1 to 4 times, you get 1 point. If you've seen them 5 or more, you get 2 points for that band. So let's see if anybody can top Tony's 81 points down in the comments below.
Damn.
See, right? And we'll see you all next
Use
time.
the honor system because we'll know if you're lying out there.
That's right. It's
Tony,
an honor.
Tony will come out and
See you when you're sleeping.
Tony
know
will
when
come
you're
out
awake.
and hunt you down.
That's
Right.
right.
Google will spy on your phone.
Yep. So thanks for watching, everybody. Visit us on the web at www.seatranquility.org. We're on Facebook. We're on YouTube all together all the damn time.
All the damn time.
Please subscribe if you haven't already and click on that notification bell so you get alert of all of our content as it posts. And please do hit the like button before you leave. For Chris, Ralph, Ryan, Tony, Karen, Nick, Craig, Rob, I'm Pete. See you in 2 weeks here on the Hudson Valley Squares. Thanks for watching, everybody. Take care.
Peace out.
Ciao.